This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool that helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 match report. Well, it finished Wolves 1, Forest 1 at Molineux as Forest halted a run of 4 straight Premier League defeats with a point in the West Midlands. A battling, committed performance from Steve Cooper's side after the thrashing at Fulham in midweek. And with the manager's job reportedly on the line, there was a lot riding on this game. And I think it's fair to say the Forest players put in a performance for their manager. I don't think it was the players that we were expecting to see out on the pitch at Molineux, but we'll come to that a bit later on. Before we get into the match report, we will start with the opposition view. So it's over to Dave from the Talking Wolves podcast.
Wolves 1, Forest 1. I think from a Wolves point of view, we were a little bit disappointed, mainly not necessarily with the result, but with the performance, I think, from Wolves. We faced up against Burnley and you guys this week, both at home, but both very similar sort of level of performances where Wolves really struggled to get out of first gear. I'm surprised with how Forest did in regards to the way they played. I thought that they would come and almost try and stink out the place, especially after a 5-0 defeat. And Steve Cooper's job, you could say, on the line. I thought Forest would sit really deep and frustrate Wolves, which, yes, at times they did, but they also still wanted to have a go and could have easily left Molineux with 3 points today. 7 changes by Steve Cooper, fair play. I felt the players that played for him today did what they needed to do to make sure they got something out of the game and didn't really let him down. The goal, you guys capitalising really on a poor error from Wolves, really, and it's a really good header. I felt, obviously, from a Wolves point of view, we should have defended that slightly better. And then our only sort of bit of quality, I would say, throughout the game, where Lamina finds Sarabia and could square it for Cunha to poke home. So, I mean, if you're a neutral watching it, you'd probably say, a draw is possibly the fair result, but I felt Forest fans would be happy with the level of performance, I would assume. Probably disappointed that you could have so easily nicked something, but would probably, on the road, in the situation that you're in, would probably take that point. But like I said, it was quite a disappointing game. I think, like I said, Wolves never really got out of first gear. I felt always going to be difficult for Wolves because Forest were going to react to what happened. There was going to be a reaction from Nottingham Forest at Molineux. And I think now, I don't know the situation. I think, as an outsider, that performance probably gives Steve Cooper enough to keep his job for next week. I think you've got Spurs on Friday. I would be surprised if he's let go. But look, I think he's a good manager, good core of players there. I think there's definitely 3 worse teams than Nottingham Forest this season. And you had a tough start to the campaign as well. So I think it's a hard one. From the owner's point of view, he needs to know that by January he's going to be spending money on someone that he knows is going to be the long-term future of the club. So I can understand why he may want to pull the trigger. But for me, I think Steve Cooper showed enough today against Wolves that he should still remain in that job. But as a Wolves fan, like I said earlier, pretty disappointed with the level of performance. But we're still unbeaten at home, I think, now in 6 games. You know, we take the point, we move on. And, apart from the reverse fixture, lads, all the best for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Dave. And some interesting points there. And I think a fair assessment of the game at Molineux. It's Stephen here, and I've got Tom with me for this match report. So, Tom, Dave mentioned it there in the opposition piece. Steve Cooper made 7 changes for this game, and that's where we're going to start with the team news. So, the likes of Aina dropped to the bench, Divock Origi dropped to the bench, Sangare dropped to the bench as well, amongst many others. Felipe also out of the team. And among the changes included a change in formation. So Forest went back to the 5-3-2 formation, a back three of Niakate, Murillo and Bolly, Toffolo and Williams as wing-backs. In the midfield, Chet Kouyaté, Ryan Yates and Oral Mangala, Kouyaté being the real eyebrow-raising selection in the midfield. And then a front two of Gibbs, White and Alanga. So Forest not having an out-and-out striker of sorts, but I think the plan was to try and stretch the Wolves' defence with the pace and mobility of Gibbs, White and Alanga. But in goal, Tom, a change between the sticks. Vlachodimos dropped, and in returning to the team was Matt Turner.
Yeah, it's a bit strange one with Vlachodimos. I mean, the goals what he has conceded, you can probably say that he's had no chance to save any of them, to be honest, but he hasn't really been spectacular. To be honest, I can't really remember a save he's made of note. To be honest, it's been pretty much the saves he has made has probably been routine. There's not been any spectacular saves and anything. And obviously, he's let 5 in on Wednesday after that shit show down at Craven Cottage. And yeah, I think looking at that team yesterday when it come out at 2:00, I just said to my mate, that's a team who he can actually rely on and trust, who will actually give him something. And for whatever reason, people have alluded to it on Twitter and other social media formats, is that it's quite telling that last season, like Bardi, never had a sniff. I don't think he ever got on the bench, and he managed to pick up a Europa League winners medal. Montiel is a World Cup winner with Argentina, and he can't get in the squad for whatever reason. So whether... I did say on Wednesday, and I wouldn't say it was frustration, but it was just telling that certain players obviously down tools, and whether they don't trust Steve Cooper's an elite coach, this, that, and the other. It's and those players didn't play. Obviously, Sankara didn't get on the field yesterday. Dominguez didn't get on the field. Origi didn't get on the field. I know he has been 100% fit, but yeah, it's quite telling yesterday that he's picked a team which he knew would run through brick walls for him, and it was solid enough to get a point on the road.
Yeah, I think it was telling that he'd gone to a group of players who'd largely played for him last season. And in midfield, Chet Kouyaté returning for his first appearance since last April. I thought he did okay, actually. In his 60 minutes, he was... I think the idea was to bring him in and use his athleticism to intercept, win the ball in midfield and drive Forest on. I think he did okay, didn't he? He looked a little bit like the Kouyaté before the World Cup injury last year.
Yeah, he's solid without being spectacular, isn't he, Kouyaté? But sometimes his use of the football isn't great, and at times he can he's a bit like deceiving, really. He can get around the pitch, but when you actually see him in full flight, he does look like he's running in treacle majority of the time. And obviously, he had the legs of Mancala around him. But yeah, yesterday, Kouyaté was solid without being spectacular, really. So I was pleasantly, well, I wouldn't say pleasantly surprised. I was surprised to see him in the starting lineup after I went to that game at Brentford, where basically turned his back on that Ivan Toney free kick, and yeah, he didn't have his best moment in a Forest shirt. So yeah, I was surprised to see him back yesterday. But if you see Kouyaté behind the scenes and everything, he does seem to be a bit of an ally towards Steve Cooper, because Steve Cooper, I know he hasn't played in terms of if it's been fitness, obviously injury or form or whatever. But Steve Cooper does seem to have like a likeness or to like Chiarte kind of thing. So yeah, I was surprised to see him yesterday, to be honest.
And after the game kicked off, I think it was clear that the Forest players looked more committed in this game. They were putting in tackles, chasing down Wolves, and also looking to have more of a threat on the break than what they did at Fulham. And they just looked more committed to the cause, and that was a promising sign after what we saw on Wednesday night. And 14 minutes in, Forest took the lead. It was Chiarte who intercepted Totti's ball out of defence. He fed the ball wide to the right-hand side for Williams. He held on a second or two, just allowed Yates to make a decoy run to his right, and then bent a cross in, which was met by Harry Toffolo at the back post on the head. Dawson was on the line, tried to clear it, couldn't quite do it. The ball was in the net, and Forest were in front. And I like this goal, Tom, because it was wing back to wing back.
Yeah, it was a nice goal. It was at the opposite end of because in that lower tier, which is that stand, pretty much a copy of the Brian Clough stand. So it was at the opposite end of the ground. So we was like nearest their newest stand. I think it's Stan Cullis stand or whatever it is. So it was a bit of a delay of what actually happened. You see, because obviously quite low down. And when we saw Toffolo celebrating, I think the start Forest made, I think it was a bit deserved, to be honest. I think they tried to get on the front foot a couple of times and didn't make that right pass. And then obviously the cross coming by Nico Williams, who yesterday had a very, very good game. He was very solid and he was up and down the right-hand side all game. And he probably one of his better games for Forest because obviously he's had his critics, hasn't he? But yeah, he was decent yesterday, Nico Williams, in putting a lovely cross onto the back stick for Harry Toffolo, who he's deserved that because as we know, his career path, he's like started in the lower leagues and worked his way up. So, I mean, only a few years ago, he was only playing for, no disrespect to him, but Lincoln City, who are usually like in like League One or League Two. So to score that, yeah, I was really pleased for him yesterday because he has been playing pretty well in recent games, and so he deserved that goal yesterday. Did tough.
And he's first in a Forest shirt as well, first in the Premier League, so well deserved for him. After Forest went in front, I think what happened was Wolves did actually wake up a little bit and start to come at Forest a bit more. And there was a shot by Matheus Cunha, which could have been a tricky one. It was a bending shot from outside the area first time. And Matt Turner did well to not only get across to it, but also hold the ball and keep it in his hands because Wang Lee-Chan was waiting to pounce in the vicinity. So I think Turner there did well. Good hands from him. And Wolves in that first half did start to get on top, enjoy more of the possession and slowly start to pin Forest back, and Forest went a bit deeper. And the goal did come, the equaliser for Wolves, 32 minutes. It was some neat interplay between Lamina and Sarabia. Sarabia into the box, pulls the ball back for Cunha, and he has a reasonably simple finish, slotting it past Turner into the bottom corner. Steve Cooper wasn't happy with the throw-in call by the officials that was made in the build-up to the goal. I still think Forest could have done better in terms of defending, as much as it was a nicely worked move from Wolves as well. What was your view on it, Tom?
Yeah, it was on our side. The line-out on our side was basically indecisive all game. He was very slow with his flag, etc. But yes, it was a Forest throw-in, but there's enough play to prevent that goal. And Wolves just popped it around as one-touch intricate passing, and obviously Cunha's tapped it home on the pullback. So yeah, I think Forest were just a yard off it at that point in the match where they were just like knocking the ball around, and it was a nice goal from a Wolves perspective. But yeah, I wasn't too aggrieved by it because sometimes you don't get the right decisions, i.e. a throw-in when you believe it's come off like a Wolves player or whatever. But yeah, Forest got to do a lot better. They just switched off for that split second and they never got set, and then they popped the ball around and Cunha scored. So I'm not too aggrieved by it, and that's one criticism I've had of Steve Cooper in recent weeks, is that I know the performance haven't been great, but don't start using the officials as an excuse kind of thing. We got to do better in certain situations, and whether internally he will mention that to the players and that you criticise them for not being switched on. But yeah, I just said to my mate yesterday, I said, no, Forest have switched off for a split second then, and they never got set, and they got unduly punished for it.
So yeah, disappointing to concede the equaliser for Forest, but I think they responded well. Actually, they stuck to their game plan. They were committed, still putting in tackles, and as Wolves were coming forward at them, Forest were resolute in defending, with everybody playing a part, putting in tackles, blocks, interceptions, chasing down, really making life difficult for Wolves, I thought. And just before the break, Forest had a big opportunity to go back in front, and it was Kouyaté involved again. He chased down Max Kilman, who was dithering in possession, didn't deal with the ball. Kouyaté intercepts it and has a clear run at goal. Hits a first-time shot that Jose Sarr saves with his legs, and the ball goes away to safety. I think it was Dawson, the Wolves defender, who was also covering from Kouyaté's right-hand side. So I don't think Kouyaté had the opportunity to take another touch. I think he had to hit it first time. I think with respect to him, though, the chance fell to the wrong person on the pitch, because Kouyaté's not exactly known for his goal scoring. But that was a big chance, Tom. And if that goes in, Forest are 2-1 up before the break, and things look very different.
Yeah, if that was an Alanga or Gibbs White or Wani for that matter, if he wasn't injured, yeah, it would have been 2-1. But yeah, I think Kouyaté just his eyes lit up, and yeah, he didn't really hit it. It was probably a routine save for Jose Sarr. So, but if he'd just got a bit of height on it, you never know. But yeah, Kouyaté, as you've said, he's not noted for his attacking or finishing, is he? So, so yeah, it was a missed opportunity, but it's fallen to the wrong person, unfortunately. And yeah, it would have been nice to go in at 2-1, but just go back to the Wolves goal, and there was like a fear in the Forest away end, is that a lot of people were saying, don't crack now, don't like basically implode, because that's been the criticism of Forest in recent. Once the first goal goes in, the second goal and the third goal, a bit similar to last season where they've got a soft underbelly. So yeah, Forest were resolute after the goal. We was fearing the worst after what happened on Wednesday against Fulham. So yeah, Forest. I think Murillo had a decent game yesterday. I mean, there was sometimes he was like he was to blame for probably doing a bit too much once he's done the hard bit of trying to bring the ball out of defence, but that's the defender he is, and thankfully we didn't get punished for it yesterday. But he was brilliant yesterday, and Niakate was brilliant. He was back to the performance what he put in against Villa when he kept Ollie Watkins in his back pocket. So and Bolly had a pretty much solid game. So yeah, defensively yesterday were pretty sound.
Yeah, and I think to have that response from Forest, given what happened at Fulham, and as you're saying there, that resoluteness in defence, that committed nature of the performance, I thought was an encouraging sign, because I think this game could have gone one or two ways. It could have been players downing tools again, not really playing for Steve Cooper, and we could have lost 3-0, and that probably would have been curtains for Coops. But actually, Forest were committed, were very much in the game, defending well, everybody doing their jobs, everybody really delivering for the manager. So after what happened on Wednesday, I think that was quite encouraging to see, because I must admit, before the game kicked off, I was quite worried about potentially where the game could go. So 1-1 it was at half-time. Forest got into the break level, and in the second half, no changes were made. Forest came out with the same 11. And I think actually in the second half, Tom, I think Forest shaded it. I think they had a bit more of the game, better opportunities, and just looked better team in that second half.
Yeah, and if they used the ball a bit better, they could have had even more opportunities. There's a couple of times where Gibbs White was he picked up the ball in some decent areas of the pitch, and he only had to play a through ball in for Alanga. For whatever reason, it's like a touch too many, or he's played it in a bit too hard, and Alanga can't get on the end of it. So yeah, there was times where we did get in some really decent opportunities, and I would have before the start of the game, I would have took a draw after what happened on Wednesday. Um, Overall, the game, I think it was a fair result, 1-1. But yeah, I just thought Forest. But having said that, Forest did have some decent opportunities, and if they did make the right decision, they might have like come away with like a 2-1 win. But I think that's been the criticism in the last month or so, is that when we get into some decent positions, our decision making is relatively poor. And we know Gibbs White has got the quality, and I'm not just blaming him, because as a collective, it's everybody who can play that final ball if it's from a wide area or whatever. But yeah, sometimes it's the ball when it goes into the desired target, it doesn't get there, and it's just the wrong decision. It is really frustrating, because if we can get that side of the game sorted, we might be able to punish teams, but at the moment, our passing radar in the final third is distinctly lacking, and that's why we're not winning football matches at the moment.
Yeah, and we've mentioned the loss of Taiwo Awoniyi. I think he really does knit things together up front, and he's very good at just holding up the ball and bringing others into play. And yesterday, I think Gibbs White and Alanga, it worked in this particular game, but you can see where we do lack that out-and-out striker up front. And Gibbs White, I thought, was actually quite good in the game, and he was looking to make things happen. He was getting around the pitch and was trying to be that creative spark for Forest. Alanga, sometimes the ball was coming into him and he wasn't holding on to it, or he was sort of making the wrong decisions when it came to passing the ball or moving the ball on. But I think that's just his game at the minute. That's hopefully something that he's going to improve on as he gets more game time.
Yeah, I think Alanga's a project, isn't he? He's still relatively young, and he is raw. I mean, if you give him the ball and he runs with the ball, he can get past players with ease, kind of thing. But when the ball's into him and he has to like hold it up and obviously shrug off a defender, he can't do that. The ball comes off him like a trampoline at times, kind of thing. And if you can sort that side of his game out, he will be a really dangerous player. But yeah, he's very good when he's got space in front of him to run into or whatever. But yeah, when the ball's tight to him, he's not that great at the moment. And it goes back to Awoniyi. When he plays, it's just like knits it all together, and he's got that pace as well to get beyond the last defender. But I mean, yeah, with Wood and Origi did all right on Wednesday for the first like 5 minutes, but as soon as that, half an hour to be honest, he did look quite lively. But like I said, once that first goal went in, we just imploded. But yeah, Wood did come on yesterday, and he didn't really have enough time to do anything, to be honest. But going back to Alanga, I think he needs to polish up that side of the game, and he is a dangerous player now, but he can, if he can put all that together, he'd be a more dangerous player.
In the second half, Forest made a change on 63 minutes, so Kouyaté came off for Danilo. Kouyaté had been booked in the first half, and I think that was just a wise move. I think he was tiring and on a yellow card as well. Not worth taking the risk with him, and Danilo came on. Another trusted Cooper player from last season, I think it's worth mentioning. And he was involved, actually, in the golden chance that Forest had to go 2-1 up in the second half. And it was down the left-hand side, Danilo. He feeds the ball into Alanga. Alanga overhits the cross, but Nico Williams is coming in on the far right-hand side. He chases the Wolves player down, wins the ball back, drives down the byline, puts a cross in, and Harry Toffolo meets it 3 yards out, and agonisingly, the ball goes over the bar from his header. Not only could that have been 2-1 Forest, could have been 2 goals for Toffolo and 2 headers.
I just think he's come into it a bit too quick. Obviously, he had to get there, but I think he's connected with it a bit too well, and obviously it's gone over. You know, if that comes off your chin or something like that, it's a goal, isn't it? But I just think that with the defender there, he just puts him off a bit, and he doesn't get the right contact with it, and hence why it goes over the bar. So, but to be honest with I don't want to be too critical, but I've been a bit disappointed with Danilo this season. I mean, I don't think he's been out the races, and whether that's been fitness or whatever, because he has had a few injuries, i.e. his hamstring, etc. But yeah, when he come on yesterday, he looked a bit better than he has done in recent games, you see. So if you can like carry that on into the games what we've got coming up, then it's another asset for Steve Cooper in a bit of an attacking sense. But with Danilo, when he burst on the scene in January, and obviously it took a bit of time to get up to pace with the Premier League, he was a brilliant asset. I mean, he scored that goal against Southampton, didn't he, and Brighton. But yeah, this season he just hasn't been quite there. And it's like you look at him from last season to this season, and like, what kind of player is Danilo? And like this season, I've been scratching my head thinking, is he a defensive midfielder? Is he an attacking midfielder? But yeah, he was a bit better yesterday. So hopefully he's got over his fitness woes, and he can be a decent asset for us over the next coming games.
And also coming on later in the game, we had Felipe for Murillo. And then, as you mentioned, Chris Wood came on for Anthony Elanga with about 6 or 7 minutes to go of normal time. But the game, from Forest's point of view, they didn't have any glaring opportunities after the Toffolo one that went over the bar. Elanga did hit the crossbar with a volley, but it looked like he was offside for that one.
Yeah,
again, it's almost like it's almost there with Elanga, but sometimes it's just not close enough, is it?
Yeah, inside the Molineux yesterday, I thought the flag went up for the second phase of play when it come off the crossbar. Whoever, I think it was Williams or somebody like received it, whether he was in an offside position. But then when you watch it back on Match of the Day, Elanga looks like he's half a yard off. So yeah, if that did go to VAR, I think that would have been disallowed. But yeah, like you say with Elanga, I mean, he had a similar chance in a recent game, didn't he, on the back stick? Was it against Everton or somebody like that? Yeah, so yeah, like I say, he's a project. He's only, what is he, 21, 22? So there's a lot of promise there, and there's something to work with, and he's only going to get better under the right coaching. So if they like whoever the coaching staff is going to be in the next couple of years, whatever, if you can keep working with Elanga, then he will become an even better player. But yeah, he's still just got that rawness in certain situations, hasn't he, at the moment?
Yeah, and Wolves did have one final chance in the game, and it was Cunha who got away down the left-hand side, drove into the box and hit a powerful shot at goal, but Turner parried it away and the danger was cleared. And that was the last meaningful chance of the game. It finished 1-1, and Forest coming away from Molineux with a point and stopping the rot in a way. It is still 1 win in 12 Premier League games, but it did feel a bit different, this, didn't it, Tom? The level of performance and the response to what happened at Fulham in the week, I think that was really something that the Forest fans appreciated.
Yeah, because me and probably the other 3,000 were probably fearing the worst after what happened. It's like, what performance is going to be brought to Molineux yesterday? And it was a solid performance, and we had a few decent openings. So, yeah, it's a start. It's stopped the rot, but like you said, it's only 1 win in 12. And we got, obviously, I know no games in the Premier League are easy. We've got Spurs on Friday night, which it's going to be a brilliant atmosphere. But as a fan who goes to obviously home matches and away matches, it'd be nice to have some clarity now of what's happening with Steve Cooper. We can't keep having this every single week. Is he going? Is he not going? Because he doesn't do anybody any favours. Obviously, you got your bickering on social media. You got TalkSport who are having a field day, thinking they've got some exclusive. Then obviously you got the newspapers coming out with articles about, because these articles never come out when we're winning games, do they? But when there's a bit of negativity over Forest, or the conspiracy theories come out with why Worrell isn't playing, why McKenna isn't playing, and Marinakis' mindset with the rest of the board and everything. So it'd be nice to have some clarity to going forward now. I wouldn't say Steve Cooper's out of the woods, because like he says, it's only 1 win in 12 now. But yeah, you can't keep doing this every single week as a fan. Because like yesterday, when my initial thoughts was, The players stayed back, and then Steve Cooper walked up and down the length of the away section in the Steve Bull stand yesterday, like patting his chest where his heart is and everything, and saying thank you and all of that. And some people, and I initially thought, is this a goodbye? Is his future already been decided? And that might be the case. Come tomorrow morning or whatever, you never know. You might get the corner flag statement saying, after like an internal review, it's decided that we've parted ways. Which I'll be sincerely sad that it has come to an end. But like I said in the past, that every manager has a shelf life, and whether Steve Cooper's at the end of his, it remains to be seen. But I think as a fan, I'm forever grateful for what he's done for us. He's the only manager in 23 years to bring Premier League football to the City Ground. He has made mistakes. He will be the first to make that he's made mistakes. And sometimes his selection recently has raised eyebrows, etc. But if, like he said on Wednesday, whatever happens, what decision the club makes, he'd be happy whatever that is. And it'd be nice to see him in the dugout on Friday night. But if the club do make a decision early this week, I can kind of understand it, because as we all know, it's a result-based business, and the results recently haven't been great. And everybody says, "I'll sack the players," but we know that doesn't happen, because obviously the players, sometimes I don't think they go out to definitely lose games, but if things aren't going right, they have got the ability to down tools. And I think a lot of us thought that on Wednesday, that certain players did down tools, and certain players got subbed off at half time and didn't appear for the second half to watch the match with the rest of their teammates. So I think that's telling. And then obviously certain players who are not being picked at the moment for whatever reason, I think that's a bit telling. And yeah, I think what will be, but I wouldn't be surprised either way, to be honest. And I'm not one who's in a Cooper in or Cooper out, but like I said, I've been obviously supporting this club for 30 years now, and nothing surprises me, to be honest. But yeah, if Evangelos Marinakis thinks the time has come to make a change, he will make that change regardless of fan support. And I don't think Marinakis is heartless. I think he knows what Steve Cooper brings to the club and the city, and he's the only manager who's had that connection, albeit probably you can compare it to Karanka, because of how he was for a certain time. It was a bit united, then obviously threw the toys out the pram, and before him, when Farage was here, Pearce did knit everything together, but obviously results speak for themselves. I think it was like 2 wins in 24 by the time he got the boot. But yeah, as we all know, it's a results-based business, and it will be a sad time when it does come to an end. But I think for the greater good, with how much money Marinakis has put into the football club, he's got to look at it this way. If there's a distinct fear that we will drop out of the Premier League, then he will make that change.
Yes, and we will talk a little bit more about Steve Cooper's position and his future after a short break.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
'Tis the season for festive football. And what's the best way to watch it? Well, it's down at your local Green King Sports Pub, of course. After all, Christmas is a time to catch up with your friends, old and new, and to get to your local for a pint, some food, and live action of every Christmas cracker when it comes to Premier League football. Each fixture from TNT, Sky and Amazon is live at Green King Sport, which means wall-to-wall action on the huge HD screens, So head to your local Green King and watch every winning goal, top bins volley, and yes, dodgy VAR decisions in an atmosphere worth sharing. Download the Green King Sport app and you'll receive 10% off drinks every single time there's sport on the telly. And you'll be supporting us here at 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. Now, it's back to your match report.
The 1865 match report.
Welcome back to this match report. Let's now hear the thoughts of our very own Rich.
So it was a better performance, and as I predicted, Stevie Cooper went for the pragmatic team selection of 5 at the back, no real strikers, but it worked. I said before the game that if he went for the option of basically doing what we did at Brighton away last season, then that would be enough for me. All I really want is to see them fighting and putting in the effort, because if we can get that bit of confidence back, I know that the team have got enough ability to be able to have a reasonable season. Now, whether that's enough for Mr. Marinakis and whether that's enough for some of the fan base, that's another matter. And obviously, I'm not going to tell people what to think. What I would say is that, to echo what Stephen and George said in the match report after the Fulham game, is that there's a real danger that if we let Steve Cooper go, it'll destabilise what we've got going at the club, because he is the constant that's there. And also, there's always that danger that he'll go off and be a better manager elsewhere, being given the tools to do it his way. Naturally, you know, the Wolves will still be circling, no pun intended, and there probably will be some leaks to the press and some odd headlines and stories coming out. But for me, this is a step in the right direction. Again, use that Brighton match last season as a bit of a template. It was one of the things that just reminded us as fans and players, and indeed the gaffer, that we maybe have got more fight than we thought we did. We have got more ability than we thought we did. And it was really, really important as well to hear Steve Cooper's post-match interview where he said he felt really assured by what we can do now.
Some thoughts there from Rich, our host of the podcast, picking up on this idea that Cooper is one of the few stable things that Forest have got in the club at the moment, and letting him go could potentially bring in a period of instability and unrest potentially. But the overarching feeling I'm still getting from the majority of fans is that Steve Cooper is very much the man for the job and he should stay in post. The point at Wolves moves Forest 5 points clear of the bottom 3. We're recording this on Sunday morning, so Sunday's Premier League games haven't happened yet. But just going back to Molineux, and in the post-match interview with Radio Nottingham, Steve Cooper didn't sound like a man who was on his way out of the club. What do you think, Tom?
No, the good thing about BBC Sounds app is that regardless of where you are in the country, you do get all the post-match reaction. So, and where we parked, it was only like 10-minute walk from Molineux. So I was like listening to it on the way back to the car. Then by the time I got to the car, listened to his interview. Yeah, it was an upbeat interview, wasn't it, with Colin Fry? On Wednesday, he was broken. That man was broken on Wednesday, and I don't know Steve Cooper as a person. He seems to be a very strong character, but I think his bottom lip was going. After he saw that reaction from the Forest crowd on Wednesday, I think if he wanted to, he could have burst into tears because of that level of support. And the level of support was there all through the game. Even before the game, in the concourse, they were singing Steve Cooper's name. He has got the majority of the support still, and I think a lot of it's thankful for what he's done and everything, and we sincerely hope that we'll get back to winning ways sooner rather than later. Because I think stating the obvious, if he does get a win in the next couple of games, I think that will just just calm everything down and not have this speculation hanging over his head. And they do say, don't you, that we are three games away from a crisis in the Premier League. And I think we're still in that crisis. in a way, because obviously with all the speculation, will he go, won't he go, and everything. And like I said earlier, it'd be nice for the club to basically come out and say, look, we've had a review and everything, and at this moment in time, Steve Cooper, we do back him, and he is our man for the future. And at 11 o'clock today, Sunday, the 10th of December, TalkSport have actually come out and said that after that draw yesterday, Steve Cooper's position as Forest manager is safe for now, kind of thing. So, but like I says, it'd be great to get a win on Friday, stating the obvious. And at the start of the season, Spurs looked like unbeatable. It was like whether new set of eyes on the job, i.e. Ange Postecoglou, and he's gone in there, but they've had a few. I know they got the draw against Man City last week, but then they've lost against West Ham in the week at home, etc. So I don't think they are a team which are invincible at the moment. I think you can get at Spurs, and that under the lights at the City Ground, packed City Ground that is, and the atmosphere. I think we could possibly get something, but obviously everything has to be aligned and everybody's got to be on it. We can't have that performance against Fulham on Wednesday at the City Ground on Friday. The players were a disgrace on Wednesday, and Harry Toffolo's mentioned that in his post-match interview yesterday, that the players were embarrassed, and rightly so. But yeah, the result, what we got yesterday at Wolves, that can't be a one-off now. That's got to be a building block. Like last season, I think we lost against Leicester, didn't we, 4-0? And I think the game after that was Brighton, where we didn't really do a lot in the game, but we just stuck at it and got a 0-0. And that was like basically the foundations to actually get some decent results before the World Cup break last year. I mean, we got a 2-2 against Brentford, didn't we? And beat Palace and etc. So, yeah, yesterday's game's got to be a catalyst now of actually being resolute and actually start improving performances and hopefully get some wins on the board, because I said earlier, no games are easy in the Premier League, but we've got Spurs on Friday, and I mean, we did all right against Spurs last year, if you remember, at home. We just didn't have that finishing touch, and Harry Kane was the difference. And we played them in the League Cup, didn't we? And we absolutely dominated them and beat them 2-0. So
at least I haven't got Harry Kane this year to make the difference. And players like James Maddison, who are injured, big players at the moment, they have had a few wobbles of late. So it does feel like maybe it's not a bad time to play Spurs. And I think a Friday night atmosphere under the lights at the City Ground, and if reports are to be believed, Steve Cooper will be the manager for that game still. As you mentioned, TalkSport have put something out this morning saying that the 1-1 draw at Wolves is set to give Steve Cooper more time to turn around Forest's fortunes. That's according to TalkSport sources. If that is the case, I think that is the right move. I think given everything that's been going on recently, Forest do need some stability and some clarity on the manager's position. You can't keep going into a game and thinking that he's only got one game to save his job. I don't think that is a healthy or sustainable way to run the club. And just going back to the performance at Wolves, those players yesterday were playing for Steve Cooper. There's no doubt about it. And Harry Toffolo as well, in his post-match interview, was full of praise for Steve Cooper and what he's done at the club since he joined.
I'm really glad for the manager today, because he deserved that. And you showed how much love he gets when we just lost 5-0 away from home. And to be able to put on a performance, a proper resilient performance, albeit we didn't get the 3 points, but it's a point in the right direction. And we just want to keep putting ourselves in those positions, and a point away from home is a great result.
We know the pressure that he's been under, the questions around his job. Did you feel like you were playing for him today in that sense?
Yeah, we love the gaffer. He's been a massissive part of this football club for 2 years. What he's done, not many people, if not nobody, would have been able to do what he's achieved. So we're with him, we're right behind him. Long may it continue. I love working for him, as do all the players in there, and I think it showed today. And a big respect as well to the owner for sticking by the players, sticking by the manager, and it just shows you how together this football club is, and it's heading in the right direction, and it's one that many people would want to be a part of.
Hard to argue with that as well, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, and like I says at the start of this pod, was that the players what we picked are ones what Steve Cooper can rely on. I don't want to like single players out, but I think in the last couple of games, I think Ibrahim Sangare we're after him all summer and everything, and whether he hasn't got to the grips with the pace of the Premier League yet, and moving to a new country, a new culture, etc. Whether that's been a factor, I don't know. But yeah, there's certain players who have shown when they've come in and shown a bit of promise, but they haven't like carried that on. I think Nico Dominguez, he's against Villa, he was brilliant, wasn't he? And against Brentford, he was brilliant, but his performances have fallen off the face of a cliff. And I think, yeah, yesterday's performance, it just the players who were out there were actually behind Steve Cooper, and as Harry Toffolo has said there, it says the love the gaffer and everything. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what team is picked on Friday. But yeah, I think as a collective, I think all the players have got to start showing a bit, because when situations in the Championship happen where we was on a bit of a hiding, or we've lost a couple of games in a quick succession, the players you probably look at and think, oh, well, he's not good enough and he's not good enough. But these players are on 80, there's some of them on 100 grand plus a week, if you believe the reports. And we've had enough, haven't we, in the recent years of like players just coming here for a quick paycheck and everything. And you're in the Premier League now, and the reason why we've signed these players, because in the past they've been of a decent quality. So yeah, you don't want to go down the realms of like players like coming in like Rafik Jabora in the past, where they just come for like a quick payday. You want players to actually do well, wearing the red of Nottingham Forest. And yeah, like I said on Wednesday, it was an absolute disgrace. And yesterday was a step in the right direction of actually being shown some fight and determination and desire. Because I mentioned on Twitter the other day is that last season, all right, we was getting outclassed in certain games, but the heart and desire was there. And when you play like Man City and Arsenal, you lose 5 and 6-0, you kind of think, well, quality's shown there. We wasn't that good enough. But yeah, once you lose the heart and desire, you're not going to do anything in football matches. That first and foremost, it's got to be the heart and desire. Then equality will come to fruition. But yeah, in recent games, the performances haven't been there, kind of thing. And yesterday was a step in the right direction, and we need to like take that into Friday's game against Spurs.
Would you go with the same team for that game against Spurs? I think it's hard to drop anybody who performed yesterday. In all fairness, I think we'll earn the shirt.
Yeah, I'd probably keep the same, but it's like, if you want a goal, what are you going to do up front? Because we saw it last season, didn't we, when Johnson, Gibbs White and Lingard played in a three and it never worked. And I think when you don't play with a striker, you lose that focal point. But having said that, the striker is what we've got picked from. Haven't been pulling up any trees, have they? Origi started all right against Fulham, but obviously he didn't do anything after that initial good half an hour when we imploded. Chris Wood's had his critics, hasn't he? I mean, I think with Chris Wood, you've got to play to his strengths. I think you've got to have runners in and around him. But when I noticed this on last Saturday against Everton, when the ball goes up to him, and you got Tarkowski who's winning everything in the air, and Jared Braithwaite next to him, and you've got nobody within 10 yards of him, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to bring the ball down, turn and run away from the defender like Awani's got. So yeah, stating the obvious, losing Awani is an absolute monumental loss to us. And the first thing I'd be doing, if Steve Cooper is the manager or whoever it is, I mean, I think the players probably 75% of the time, 80% of the time get picked for Steve Cooper. I think he will go in with what he would like, but I don't think he has a say on the personnel. But yeah, the first thing I'd be doing in January is looking for a striker. Origi, he's never looked fit, has he? And he hasn't had much game time. I mean, I found it baffling last week that Steve Cooper said Chris Wood was suffering from a knee injury last week. Or is it hypertension of the knee or something, whatever it is? And he stayed on the field. and Origi only got 10 minutes, and Origi's record against Everton's pretty impressive. And you get strikers, and I think Britt mentioned this, Britt Somolonga, a few years ago, where he was out for a considerable amount of time, and then he played against MK Dons, didn't he, final game of the season, and he scored, I believe. And he said, I think whoever was interviewing him says, "Oh, do you like coming to this ground?" He says, "Oh, I've scored here like 6 or 7 times before." And strikers in particular remember that. You see, they go to these grounds and they've got like a bit of a purple patch against certain teams at certain grounds. And I just thought it was baffling last week that Origi only got 10 minutes when we was actually chasing the game. So on Friday, I would like to play with a striker, but for whatever reason, I mean, you've got to play to Chris Wood's strengths, and Origi, he's, like I said, doesn't look fit. Then you see on Twitter people are mentioning about, oh, why don't we get somebody from the youth side? Well, my mate from another pod went to the game against Doncaster in the EFL Cup or whatever it was against Doncaster. Julian Lawson never got a kick against a team who's mid-table in League Two. So you can't expect him or any other striker from the academy for that matter to come in for the first team and start banging goals. It doesn't work like that because obviously the golfing class. So yeah, if we can do all right in the next couple of games and try and stay unbeaten, then hopefully go out and get a striker to see us, because by all accounts, we're not going to see a one-e, are we, until March?
No. So I think come January, we're going to have to do something. We need to get a striker in of a similar quality and impact to a one-e.
But we do need a striker because there's a distinct lack of goals, and we're in this realm at the moment of, I know we did okay yesterday, but we're conceding goals and we can't score goals. And as we know before, even Alan Hansen said it back in the 90s, didn't we, when we were struggling in the Premier League, Forest concede too many goals and don't score enough, and that's a recipe for disaster. So yeah, we do definitely need a striker come January, and a good one at that.
But I think all Forest can do for now is get to January without a one-year and with the players that they've got, and use this performance and this result at Wolves as a starting point to build from, and hopefully go into the game against Spurs on Friday night and we see a bit more of the home form that carried us to safety last season, and that Forest can put in a big performance for the fans and for Steve Cooper, who, from the sounds of it, will be in charge for that game on Friday night. We'll leave the match report there. So thank you, Tom. Thank you also to Dave earlier on for the view from the opposition. Thank you as well, listener, for joining us. We will be back with you after the Spurs game with our match report. So until then, thanks for listening and goodbye.
Podcast Network.
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this a lot.
Why?
Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.